I'm photographer David duChemin, and this is Vision is Better, a sometimes weekly podcast about the craft and art of photography. Welcome here. Welcome to episode 47 of Vision is Better. Today I want to do part one of a two-part discussion on critique. Part one will be giving critique. Part two will be getting critique. I think photographers are a funny bunch. We say some very strange things about photographs. When we look at the work of other people's, our reactions range anywhere from, oh my God, that's amazing, that's so delicious, I could eat it up, to, to, I have exactly that same photograph, or that is so Henri Cartier-Bresson, I love that. To, you know, if I was making this photograph, I would do it totally different. Or, you know what I would do if that was my photograph? No, I don't. And I don't want to know, because it's not your photograph. And I think photographers are terrible at listening. We're terrible listeners. If photography is speaking through our cameras, we do a lot of talking and we don't do very much listening. And I think when it comes to critique, when it comes, frankly, to learning photography, we should be listening a whole lot more. And I wonder if the reason we are so bad at giving and critiquing, giving and receiving critique, is because we're not so good at the listening and the talking about photographs. So there's a couple things I want to say. The first thing I want to preface this entire thing by saying, photography is a means by which we say something. And usually when we are critiquing someone else's photograph, it is someone else's photograph. And so I think that any discussion about critique, any critique, in fact, needs to begin with the assumption that it's not your photograph. And you don't know what that other person was trying to accomplish. You don't know what their vision was. You don't know anything really more than what you see. And a critique is meant to be, I think, in order for it to be helpful, is meant to be a discussion. It needs to be a conversation. So I think, first of all, we need to learn to listen to other people's photographs. Not jump in there with, if I was doing this, I would do this. Or, this is distracting to me. Because unless you know exactly what they're trying to say, you don't know whether it is or is not distracting, whether it is on message or off message. And so the first thing that we need to do is learn to listen a little better and ask yourself, what is this person trying to say? Obviously, it's not the thing we would be trying to say, and certainly not in the way that we would be trying to say it, but what is this person saying? That's the first question we should be asking ourselves when we're looking at anyone's photographs. Here are the three questions that I would ask. The first is, what am I seeing? So I would look at the photograph and I would say, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing these great repeated elements, or I'm seeing these great lines and they're leading me here. I'm seeing this color contrasting with this color. I'm seeing, here's the subject I'm seeing. Here's maybe the juxtaposition that I'm seeing. I basically would identify the elements in the photograph and the decisions that the photographer made and echo them back. Much like in a conversation when someone's talking to you and you repeat it back to them and say, I hear you saying this, without going kind of, overboard on it. The second question I would ask myself is, what does it make me feel? How am I reacting to these elements? So these particular elements make me think this, make me feel this. This decision that you made, maybe this POV you got nice and low, and it makes me feel this, or it suggests to me that you want me to look at this. So this is about your reaction to the elements and the decisions that the person, the other photographer, has made. So the first one is kind of, what are the elements and the decisions that I'm seeing in the photograph? What are my reactions to those elements and decisions? And the third question is, what might I have done differently? And this is not about your opinion versus their opinion. This is a question of possibilities. So if, in fact, and remember, this whole thing should start with asking them, what did you intend to do with this photograph? You need to begin in it with the assumption that they had an intention, that they had a purpose, and unless they tell you what that is, and maybe doesn't have to happen at the beginning, maybe it can be a conversation all the way through, but you do need to be, at a certain point, be addressing the issue of, does this photograph do what they wanted it to do? And unless you know what they wanted to do, you're going to have a hard time having that conversation. So then the third question comes into play, and that is the possibilities. I wonder what would have happened if in fact your vision was to communicate this. It doesn't feel like you quite pulled it off, but what maybe, let's explore this together, what would have happened if you had changed your POV? If you wanted to isolate that subject, could you have done that differently? So that takes the conversation into the realm of possibility, which I think is much more important to any conversation in the creative arts, not a conversation that's about shoulds, I should have, or I would have, because again, one, you didn't, two, you don't know you woulda, and three, none of those things are the point. The point is what this photographer did and their vision, and the critique is probably there. They're probably asking you for that critique to help understand what their options might have been, what better options they might have pursued, and what you feel about the photograph and what you think about the photograph, but not how you would have done it, because the last thing any of us needs is to know how you would have made a photograph. If you want to show us that, make the photograph. I am not aided in my journey as a photographer by knowing how you would have done it. I am aided, and this is the point of critique, in understanding what I might have done differently, what other options I might have pursued. Anyway, I'm trying to keep these episodes a little bit shorter. I hope this is valuable to you. If you have more that you want to ask, leave them in the comments, and tune in next time when we talk about receiving critique. Remember, gear is good, but vision's better. We'll see you next time. Take care.